How much did you know about scoliosis before starting your scoliosis journey?
We knew the same as most people, I guess, very little. We just knew that scoliosis was a curved spine. For people with scoliosis, they wore a brace or had surgery. So based upon that information, we knew what we did not want for our daughter. We did not want her to have a brace or have surgery. We would soon see about that.
How did you find out your daughter has scoliosis? And when did your scoliosis journey start?
Well, we found out our oldest daughter had scoliosis when she was just a tender 8 years old. I saw one day that one shoulder seemed just a little bit lower than the other, but I didn't even consider that it was scoliosis. I figured maybe she needed a chiropractic adjustment or physical therapy or something like that. Perhaps something was just a little off, but scoliosis didn't even cross my mind. Thankfully, we had a well exam coming up soon, so at that appointment, I asked the doctor to check our daughter's shoulder discrepancy. The doctor had her bend over, touch her toes, and do the normal check for scoliosis. And that is where our scoliosis journey began about 5 years ago. I saw the telltale rib hump on one side of her back, and though at that time I didn't know what it was called or what it meant, I knew it looked terrible. The doctor informed me that our daughter had scoliosis and we should go see the experts at a local medical facility, who in this case were surgeons. We had to wait about an anxious month to get in to see the surgeons. And in the meantime, we had our first x-ray that confirmed her scoliosis, and it was already a severe 45-degree S-curve. Again, our daughter was only about 8 at this point. We then got an MRI to rule out any other health issues that might be affecting or causing the scoliosis. She was clear of any of those issues, so that was some good news. The bad, of course, was that she had a 45-degree curve at the age of 8, already putting her in the severe scoliosis category in need of surgery. So we finally had our visit with the surgeon, and he was very nice, but he spoke with what seemed to be a remarkably lighthearted attitude about her curve, as if the diagnosis perhaps was no big deal. The conversation lasted about 10 minutes, and we were told our daughter had juvenile scoliosis, and the cause was idiopathic, which of course means they didn't know the cause of it. They told us our options. She could wear a brace if she wanted, and though after inquiring if it would help correct the curve, he said it would at best hold the curve in place, but not get any better. Then she would get spinal fusion surgery at the earliest age of 12. And that was it. I was a little surprised, for being the experts in this particular field. There just didn't seem to be much information about it. Of course, they knew a lot about surgery and how to get rid of the problem, but maybe not as much about the problem itself. Anyway, we left discouraged and quite frankly scared. If the best case scenario was that her spine would be held in place over the next 4 years until she was 12, what was the more likely outcome? Would she jump to 60 or 70 or 80 by then? Gives me shivers to even think about where we could be right now, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So, though we hoped we would eventually find an alternate treatment option to keep our daughter out of surgery, we didn't waste any time getting the treatment they suggested. It was all we knew to do at the time, and it was all covered by insurance or the medical facility itself. So it was basically free. We soon got fitted for a Boston brace by their brace technician. The measurements were taken, and the rest was all done by a computer. We came back in to pick it up, and the fitting was very brief. The brace tech drilled a few ventilation holes in the brace. We tried it on, then the surgeon was called in to take a look. He stepped in for a moment, gave a thumbs up, and then that was it. We were sent on our way. We returned again to do Schroth exercises to see if that might help too. But there again, when I asked if this might improve her curve, she just said it would only help prepare her spine for surgery, not actually improve the curve. Everyone there was very kind to us, and though I am truly grateful for good surgeons when surgery is necessary, we realize that the standard treatment that experts considered normal for severe scoliosis was really only surgery. It certainly seemed that everything being done at this medical facility for severe scoliosis was simply to prepare for eventual surgery. Again, all covered by insurance.
So I'm assuming you started searching for another option at this point?
Yes. Well, first of all, we started breaking in the brace, and during that time, we started searching for other options. We had 4 years to go, after all, until surgery, so we said we didn't want to leave any stone unturned during that time to possibly keep her out of surgery. So within the next month, we discovered a chiropractor about 4 hours away, in Seattle, actually. We were thrilled. He recommended that our daughter not wear a brace, and he felt he could keep her out of surgery. What? No bracing? No invasive treatment? We were in. In other words, our daughter could get better without too much physical difficulty or hard work that bracing would entail, and without any invasive surgery and its long recovery time. It's exactly what we wanted to hear. We said we were in, and though it seemed a bit far, we traveled the 4 hours to this clinic hoping that this was the answer we were looking for. We stayed 4 days doing all the exercises from something called the CLEAR method. But part of me felt, my husband and I both felt a little nervous that she was not wearing the brace. But we trusted his recommendation, and his recommendation again was what we wanted to hear. Remember, we didn't, like anyone else, want our daughter to wear a brace or have to go through surgery. Though I know this doctor truly wanted to help us, and the CLEAR program does help some people, it would soon prove to be not enough for such a severe curve as our daughter's 45-degree curve. Within a couple months of our visit to the Seattle clinic, and while doing all the exercises at home that he gave us, the communication just stopped. We couldn't get through to the office, and eventually we found out that this office had closed. We were discouraged again and felt like we were right back where we started. The 4 years ahead of us and the possible worsening of our daughter's spine, followed by surgery, it all loomed large in our minds and on our hearts. Yet, we would soon find that the closing of this office was a great blessing in disguise. And in this step, even though it felt like a misstep, would prove to be an important piece in our scoliosis journey. We went back to searching again and thought we would do one final sweep online of any place in the country and actually in the world that had a successful non-invasive treatment option for scoliosis. And we came upon Scoliosis Care Centers in Campbell, California. It was the first clinic that we'd found so far that seemed to specialize only in scoliosis. It also seemed to be based more on science, innovation, proven results rather than just what had always been done, like the typical Boston brace fusion surgery combo. I called on Thursday afternoon and talked to Adrian, who is one of the longtime therapists at the clinic. I couldn't believe how much he knew, more than anyone else I had talked to, and he isn't even one of the doctors. We sent our MRI and X-ray to him, and he set up a video call with one of the doctors. When we talked to him the next day, we experienced something for the first time that would change the course of our journey and life, actually. He didn't tell us what we wanted to hear. Rather, he told us what we needed to know. And he didn't act as if it was no big deal. In fact, it was quite the opposite. He cared enough to tell us it was a big deal and was a very real possibility that it could get worse with each new growth spurt, and very likely already had gotten worse. he would prove to be right. But we'll get to that in a minute. After about 24 hours of discussing and praying with my husband about what to do, we decided we should just go for it. The first visit required a 3-week intensive stay in California, 18 hours away, to prepare the body and learn all the treatments and exercises and get fitted for the new brace. We had exactly 3 weeks till school would start, so it seemed the timing was just right. Now, allow me to add here that if we had not exhausted other possibilities first before finding Scoliosis Care Centers, we probably wouldn't have even considered it due to the huge commitment, being so far away. But finding out that all these other treatment options closer to home weren't working, we were ready to make the commitment farther from home. What felt like a misstep earlier was actually an important step in preparing us to commit to this clinic and this treatment program. We told the clinic we would leave by Saturday, get there as soon as we could, and we hit the road with as much as we thought we needed, and our other 2 girls, actually not knowing where we were staying, not knowing how we would pay for it, feeling pretty uncertain of what was going to happen, kind of like pioneers heading into the unknown, except instead of heading west, we were heading south.
So what were you feeling at this point?
We started on a Tuesday morning by getting an MRI of her spine. The clinic had a stand-up MRI to make it easy to take as many images needed safely. We met with the doctor shortly after the image was taken, and he informed us our daughter's curve was now a frightening 61-62 degree S-curve. As I mentioned earlier, it had worsened as the doctor suspected. We now realized what a blessing it was that this other clinic closed its doors when it did. If we had continued with that treatment, our daughter could now be looking at multiple surgeries to correct a terribly severe scoliosis. The doctors couldn't promise anything, except that they would do everything they could to help us, and we would need to do the same. We were completely committed, though with some understandable trepidation. So, treatment began. One of the first exercises she learned was the stretching table. We found out that scoliosis is not as idiopathic as the experts led us to believe. One cause of scoliosis, we learned, is attributed to the tightness in the spinal cord, lower back, and legs, which causes the spinal cord to be so tight that it is unable to stretch as the spinal bones grow, therein causing a buckling effect, the curvature of the spine. So she started learning how to use a stretching table that would stretch those muscles in her legs and lower back to allow the spinal cord to be more flexible, to make room for the spinal bones to straighten as she grew and as the brace pushed on the curve. As you might expect, she was very tight. It was uncomfortable. It hurt. Over the next couple weeks, they also did blood tests to rule out any other things that could be contributing to the scoliosis. They were really trying to just treat the whole body and find any possible causes or aggravators of the scoliosis. We learned how to do another exercise using spinal weights that would work the muscles to support the spine in a correct position. And we got fitted for a special chair that actively pushes against the curves to straighten the spine. By the last week, after 4 days of fittings, and all done by hand, and more MRI images, we finally got the first brace fitted for our daughter. It turns out that treating a 45-degree curve without a brace is actually probably too good to be true. The brace that they gave us was incredibly precise and uncomfortable, and it too hurt. We finished our 3 weeks, and it was hard work, and at times it was painful, and at times tearful for all of us. But we also discovered some wonderful things. We made lifelong friends, actually from all over the world, in those 3 weeks. Our daughter also realized she, with God's help, was made of tougher stuff than she realized. And we discovered that we had finally found the right place. And we were pretty certain any further searching was over. We found a place where we finally felt we were in the capable hands of the real experts. So we headed home, a little less scared and a whole lot more hopeful.
Was it hard to do the treatment exercises and brace wearing at home?
Yes, of course. At the start, that is. We worked hard for those first 3 months, and we did all the treatments they recommended. But often we were nervous that we were doing the treatments wrong at times. But the clinic was always quick to set up a video call, usually the same day, to address those concerns. The adjustment to the brace also was hard. It took time, and it wasn't easy, but we got there. It began to hurt less and less, and we went from just being able to wear it for about 30 minutes the first day to, by the end of the first month, she was wearing it at full marks of tightness for about 22 hours a day. We quickly got together with friends at home as well, as the doctors recommended, and our daughter showed off her brace. They were all very interested and extremely supportive. This helped her to not feel like she had to hide it and made it easier to adjust. And our school bent over backwards as well to just help however needed. The 3 months went swiftly by, and it was time to return. Of course, we eagerly wanted to know if it was working. It was working! As before, they started with an MRI to get the most current image of the spine. Then the doctor called us in, as before, to discuss our image. It worked. Our doctor now informed us that our daughter's curve was now 20 degrees lower, and her curve was now at 41 and 42 instead of 61 and 62. She had made 20 degrees of improvement. Remarkable. This clinic had done in 3 months what no one else had come close to. The good news just fueled our commitment even more, and a new brace, new adjustments were made, and we returned home for another 3 months. Again, we tried to do all the treatments that were given to us, perhaps with even more determination. And once again, we returned to the clinic after another 3 months and took yet another MRI and met with the doctor again. And this time it read 29 degrees, another 12 degrees down. We were now out of surgery range. In just a short 6 months, this clinic and its amazing doctors and therapists helped us get our daughter's curve out of surgery range. We were amazed and so thankful. So here we are. 4 years later, and a couple more braces later, and a lot more growth later, and a lot more lifelong friends later, we've now gone down another 10 degrees and have held it steady through all of our daughter's growth spurts. And the braces at this clinic and all the treatments didn't just hold her spine in place, but actually reduced her curve. So now we have no worry of surgery. She's now holding in the high teens, a long way from surgery range, healthier, straighter, stronger, both physically and emotionally. We've learned a lot in the past 5 years, and we are truly grateful for this journey with both its difficulties and its successes. We've learned a lot. We've learned what great medical care should look like, constantly researching and growing in their understanding, in this case of the spine and scoliosis treatment. We saw hardworking doctors and therapists that put in so many hours into each meticulously designed brace and are really committed to making the kids not just straighter, but healthier, and trying to keep them out of surgery if at all possible. We also learned that with scoliosis, it actually is worth doing the hard work now when a child is young, so that their body is stronger later in life, rather than the easy quick fix of surgery now that could actually leave a child with more problems later in life. And we learned that a child or teen can actually do the hard physical work and thrive under it.
Chloe, would you change anything about this journey that you've been on?
Besides not having scoliosis.
Yes, besides that.
I actually wish that we had gone here from the very start.
Well, just consider our story. Save yourself the circuitous route and start or finish your journey at Scoliosis Care Centers?